On today's show, I have two individual phone episodes with KBe and The Don. In the interview with KBe, we discuss Avengers Endgame and episodes 1 through 5 of Season 8 of Game of Thrones. And then on the phone interview with The Don, we exclusively talk about Season 8 of Game of Thrones. So please join us as we end Game of Thrones on Free Your Geek.
By the power of Grayskull,
You have failed this city. Corporatized. Cool.
Winter is coming.
finish him. Fatality.
And welcome to the Free Your Geek podcast. I am your host, J-Free, and on the phone right now, we have KBe. KBe, what is up?
Not much.
How are things going, sir? We're doing this via telephone like we did previously. I think it works out well since we all kind of have a little bit hectic lives right now. I just finished up a call with Don, but I'm going to put that at the tail end of this podcast. But I want to start off with you because Don didn't want to talk about Endgame at all. He just wanted to talk about Game of Thrones. But the name of the episode is The End Game of Thrones. So I want to start off with you just to discuss Endgame and our thoughts and feelings, and then we'll segue into we've seen 5 episodes of Game of Thrones, so warning for both Endgame and Game of Thrones. Spoilers. So that being said, you have 3 seconds to get out before we start talking about it. 1, 2, 3.
We're waiting. We're waiting.
Okay. KBe, let's take it away. So let's talk about some Endgame. Let's talk about the culmination of, phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that the culmination of, I believe it was 21 or 22 movies. This is going to be essentially the final chapter of a lot of these characters. And let's just get some initial thoughts. What do you think? Did it live up to the hype?
Oh, yeah. It definitely lived up to the hype. I mean, as you know, we saw it together the first time, and people were just going ecstatic in that theater. Just so many things that came together so nicely. I think that you could honestly say that a lot of people maybe don't show it, but we're probably a little worried of like, how do you put it all together, all these movies, and really come up with a good, solid ending to the whole thing. And I think they did a really nice job. I really do.
The Russo brothers did a great job of giving enough characters screen time. Obviously it was heavy on the ones that were left first, and then we knew essentially everything was going to be undone, but still how they got there was the interesting piece.
Yeah, definitely how they got there. Just lots of, it's like you don't even know where to begin, and it almost feels like characters that had limited screen time the last movie, they kind of made up for here. Like Black Widow, remember, in Infinity Wars, we saw nothing,
Well, and even characters we didn't see that we knew that were part of the Avengers, such as Hawkeye.
Yep.
Hawkeye it opened with his family being disintegrated, turned to dust. And that's his kind of like his reason for going on and becoming Ronin and, just going on a tear.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, I don't want to go too in depth because it was a long movie, but let's just talk about, from that to where we see that Captain Marvel is now, we see from the tag of her movie, she now is on decent terms. She's looking for Fury, so she's with, Captain America, Black Widow, and War Machine and Thor. Mm-hmm. And they find out that Thanos used the gauntlet again. And they go to that planet, and they first of all, they find, do they find Tony at that point? Because Tony's adrift in space with Nebula.
No, I don't.
No, they found him first, but he was hurt because Nebula went with them to. So basically, Tony Stark, from what we saw from the previews, he's adrift in space. They ran out of power. They tried to repower the ship. They could get it as far as they could. Him and Nebula playing paper football, which was hilarious. But basically, they're the two beings left from there, and Captain Marvel ends up rescuing them at the 11th hour, right before Stark's about to run out of oxygen. He's only got like 1 day left or whatever. She ends up bringing them back, and then they, as he's recuperating, they find out that Thanos used the gauntlet again on another planet. So Captain Marvel, Thor, and a bunch of others, Captain America, Bruce Banner, and the Hulkbuster, they all go to this planet, and they find out that the reason that Thanos used the gauntlet was to destroy all the stones.
Yep.
So they can't be recouped. So Nebula says that her father's not a liar, so then Thor, seeing like, hey, there's nothing left, chops off his head. And that's within like the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and you're like...
A lot of people by surprise.
Oh my God, Thanos is dead.
A lot of people are like, what the hell? Like, it was a good curveball. It was a really good curveball.
It surprised a lot of people. And then...
Go Disney. Decapitation.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, he did. Like, he alluded to it. He's like, what do you do? Why'd you do that? I went for the head. It's a callback to Infinity War. And there's a lot of callbacks from previous movies, and we'll talk about that a little later. But basically what they do is they find out that they can actually undo the snap. They just have to go back and find the stones. And this is all because of a gentleman by the name of Scott Lang, who is freed from the quantum realm. And what do you think about all that, like his game plan?
What do you mean by his game plan? Like
to go back in time, essentially create a time heist, if you will.
I think it's genius, but coming from him, it's like he can only be a genius about a heist. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think what's even more interesting about that is when they bring it to Tony, and he's like, no.
Well, we should preface this that after they kill Thanos, 5 years go by before Ant-Man leaves the quantum realm. So everything he's looking for his daughter to see if she's been wiped out by the snap, but he finds his own name. So we see a 5-year older Cassie Lang, who's no longer this 10, 11-year-old little girl. She's now like a 15, 16-year-old girl. And now, he missed out on those years of her life, but it's been 5 years. So they formulate this plan. They go to Tony. Tony basically, says, no, I have a daughter now. And again, alluding to Infinity War when he's with Pepper, saying he had a dream, they had a child, and then he doesn't want to give up that life. He doesn't want that life undone, but it's still nagging at him after he sees a picture of himself with Peter Parker that he lost, he lost the kid. So he ends up running scenarios, and he finds a method that would work that would allow them to travel back in time.
Yeah, and he had a lot of doubt about it. It's kind of funny when they showed up on his doorstep in his cabin in the middle of the woods. Like, he was just so done with all of it. You know what I mean? It's like everybody just comes out of nowhere, and it's like if you put yourself in his position, it's like, what do you say? It's a really hard moral position.
Well, he said it like he summed it up perfectly. Where Steve Rogers told him, like, this is our second chance, and he said, I already have my second chance. I already had it, and here it is. This is my second chance, and why would you want to give that up? But to kind of again, I don't want to recap the whole movie, but obviously we know for people that have seen it, they go back in time to different points in time that the stones were on Earth or on Vormir or anything like that, and they ended up getting all those stones. They ended up going back. They ended up
when they went back to the original Avengers movie, that was kind of comical. Like, I not comical. It was like it just made everything feel so lighthearted that they went back that far.
Right.
Like,
long story short, they ended up undoing the snap, and Tony Stark ended up sacrificing himself, and Steve Rogers, we'll talk about his story a little bit more. But overall, let's just talk about if you were to give, if I could, like maybe like a top three, what were your top three moments that you really enjoyed of this movie, or like things that like kind of hit you?
I think the top moment has to be when Cap picks up Thor's hammer. I think that, like, that just, it's like people were like wanting that but didn't expect it. I don't think a lot of people expected that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they alluded to it in Age of Ultron where he moved it like a tiny smidge.
Yeah.
But
if you have to really think about it. I think you were the one who were saying, like, you have to really think about it, is that he wasn't worthy at that point, and you have to go back to, like, Civil War and kind of like his confession, not confession to Tony, but him telling Tony the truth. You know, was that the thing that made him worthy?
Right. And, well, speaking of that, I mean, of course, that was a great moment, but we finally got the Avengers Assemble line finally, which is awesome. But I want to talk about Thor in a second, because Thor, it was like, I thought that was a little too heavy on the comedy.
Yeah. Oh, making a dude reference, yeah, like you just.
Yeah, no, that was good. But I think they just did Fat Thor, like the comedy, a little too much for my taste. But I love the fact that when he's back on Asgard during Thor: Dark World, he reaches for his hammer, and the hammer does come to him, even though he felt like a failure over the last 5 years. And what kind of stuck to me is, even though he's, you know, now like overweight and he's been like a bum for 5 years, he says, "Oh, I'm still worthy," and that to me is a really cool moment. I wouldn't say it's my top three, but I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, so it's Rogers picking up Thor's hammer. What else? Was,
Femme Fatale. That was interesting. There's always been this talk of, you know, an A-Force movie. I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
It's an all-female Avengers crew. It came out of the pages of Secret Wars. You know, it's like She-Hulk and Medusa, and it's just an all-female squad. Now, obviously, they don't really have the same characters in play here, but
right. But it was Captain Marvel, Gamora,
Captain
Nebula.
Yep.
Who else? The Wasp.
Yep.
Not Black Widow. Black Widow is dead at this point.
Yep.
Rescue. Pepper Potts.
Yep.
Who else is it? Why am I missing?
Shuri,
yeah.
Valkyrie. Like,
yeah.
It's just that screen. They just gave that one image of all the females, and it's like, is that a hint of something? I think a lot of people read into that. You know?
I didn't think of that. Okay, what about? Give me a third moment.
The very end.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So Steve Rogers.
The Steve Rogers thing, yeah.
He basically, you know, after returning all the time stones, rather than coming back to the present time, he decides to stay behind and go back to the 40s and be with Peggy Carter so he can finally get that dance, and he ends up married to her. But before we see that and that is revealed to us, we see him pass the Captain America torch to Sam Wilson. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it should have been Bucky, or do you think that Falcon was the right choice to replace Captain America?
I think it has to be Sam. I really do. One of the thing with Bucky is that I still feel like Bucky's kind of, I don't want to say been out of the picture, but he hasn't really. Okay, so he was in Civil War, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the last Avengers movie, he wasn't really all that relevant. You know, I feel like with how they're using him in the story, Sam Wilson was the better choice.
And I think to your point too, what I'd like to say is, like, I think Sam Wilson, where Bucky might be like his best friend from, you know, the 40s, and he's still, you know, Cap's best friend, I think Sam also has, you know, kind of stepped up and become really close to Steve, because when we first meet Sam Wilson, you know, obviously they're running, but we've also find out that Sam is having kind of like a I don't even know what you want to call it, like not a get together, but like a fireside chat, a powwow with other you know, armed forces people, and then we see something similar where Steve is kind of having like this little meeting of people, almost like an Alcoholics Anonymous type thing, but for people that lost those during the decimation, and just like talking about it and getting it out there. And you know, he's leading that kind of like that little group, that little discussion, and he's trying to heal people. Sam was doing the same thing. They share a lot of the same ideals. When Cap was actually looking for Bucky during Civil War, he asked Sam to go with him because he trusts him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that, and even so, I think Bucky, you know, to a lesser extent, still has that stigma of the terrorist, even though it was proved that it wasn't him and it was somebody using facial technology. He still has that stigma of being, you know, like a mercenary. And I think those that you want to hold for a Captain America persona.
Yep.
But going back, that was one of my favorite moments is, you know, Thanos is now fighting. They have the huge, you know, Thanos from the Guardians of the Galaxy time frame now comes to the future as they're trying to get all the stones, and he realizes, hey, guess what? The stones have already been collected for me. I'm going to just go use them. I don't have to do all this work myself. He goes there, and Cap is fighting, and, you know, Professor Hulk snaps his fingers to try to bring everybody back. And
what is the whole Professor Hulk thing?
Well, I want to get there. Because I want to get to my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah.
Was there was two parts. One was, you know, everything, Cap's down and out. The shield is cracked. He's still fighting up. He's getting up again, and he's about to, like, he sees this whole Thanos army, and then he hears, Steve, can you hear me? Steve. And he goes, it's Sam. And he goes, Sam? And he goes, on your left. I had, like, goosebumps upon goosebumps when he said that. That made me, like, shiver. You know, that made the hair on my arms stand up and my neck stand up. It's just like, I was, like, so ready for that. I'm like, oh, that's so poignant. That's so telling. And then, I don't know, I love that. And I love the callback to, Winter Soldier, where he, you know, Cap is trying to get one of the stones, and he's in the elevator with all these other Hydra agents that are sealed. Yeah. And he instead of trying to fight his way out, he uses his brain, and he leans in and to prove that he's like, oh no, they want me to take it. And I was like, you sure? Let me call. It's like, no need. And he leans in and he goes, Hail Hydra, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's so great. So great.
I mean, that was one of the iconic scenes of the Winter Soldier movie.
Right, it was that elevator scene, and it's like, okay, you thought you were going to get that again, but no, it's really just he outsmarts them and outwits them. And then my third favorite is, you know, when Stark sacrifices himself after Professor Hulk snaps and brings everybody back, and Thanos is trying to get the gauntlet again. Iron Man takes it. And I forget what Thanos says. He makes a little quip. He's like, I am invincible or something along those lines, and snaps and realizes he doesn't have the stones. Stark does, and he goes, and I am Iron Man, and he makes the snap, and, you know, Thanos and his army are disintegrated. And to me, it was just like, again, we started with Iron Man in 2008, and that's how they ended the first one with him saying, I am Iron Man. And now they end with, you know, his arc, his life ends with him saying, I am Iron Man, and eliminating Thanos and the threat that is. And again, if you want to come full circle, Thanos is the whole reason he was having that PTSD from Avengers 1 with all the Chitauri and stuff. So I think it was just a good way to, like, write all that stuff, tie it all up and write it together. But now, to get back to your point, what did I think of Professor Hulk? What did you think of Professor Hulk?
A lot of people seem to like it. I wasn't, I don't know. The best part of Hulk is the what's the word I'm looking for? The fight inside, the battle within. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the Jekyll and the Hyde, if you will.
Yeah, like the Hulk as, like, that kind of just mentally stable character. It's just like it's a green beast.
Well,
you know,
no, and I get that, but I also think, like, you know, this is where you need to bring the character.
Yeah.
You have Mark Ruffalo. You have him as an actor. Like, you know, if a lot of people want to see the Hulk, you know what I mean? They don't want to see Bruce Banner. No offense to the actor, but they don't want to see Bruce Banner running around, even if he is wearing a Hulkbuster suit. They want to see him transform into the Hulk. So this kind of gives us the best of both worlds. You still get his personality. But the other thing that this kind of led to, and we saw a lot of return of a lot of old characters, including the Ancient One, who gave Professor Hulk a little speech about convergent timelines and alternate timelines. Well, now this leads to the multiverse theory, which we kind of got confirmed in the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home. It's going to be kind of cool because now you could do, like, a Grey Hulk reality somewhere. Or a Mr. Fix-It, or something along those lines, too. And I believe that was something that Kevin Smith mentioned, and I think that's kind of cool. I would love to see something like that.
The other thing is Loki, right? So, like, Loki in that other timeline.
Yep, ended up stealing the Tesseract.
and they're doing a show. Like from what I understand, they're doing a show. So another time,
cool because then it's not Loki that had all that redemption arc.
Yeah.
It's Loki from the first Avengers movie before he went through everything.
Still evil, still yep.
So in that timeline, his mother is still alive because the events of Thor: Dark World never happened.
Hadn't happened yet. Yep.
Or hadn't happened yet. So we don't know if what that's going to entail. That could rewrite the entire character, and then they could also bring him back into the main continuity at any point.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing with the Winter Soldier and Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, like the Falcon and Soldier show, whatever.
Or it's going to be a continuation of that with him, like kind of like working for the Shield.
Yeah.
But going back to that real quick, Bucky knew that that was going to happen because before Steve left to return all the stones, he said, "Don't do anything stupid while I'm gone." He's like, "Oh, you're taking all the stupid with you." And he said, "I'm going to miss you, man." So he also knew it was kind of like a finality type of thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously Sam didn't know, but like I thought that was really, really cool. I like seeing all the callbacks to some of the older. So let's talk about some of the other characters that we know that are gone, either for good or it's not necessarily, because we saw Black Widow make that sacrifice to get the Soul Stone.
Mm-hmm.
But we also saw that Gamora from a previous timeline has now replaced the Gamora that died for the Soul Stone initially. So the Guardians can kind of focus now that this 2014 Gamora, pre-Guardians of the Galaxy, is now part of the 2023 timeline with no knowledge or none of the adventures with the Guardians. She's going to have a whole brand new mindset where they're going to have to kind of like re-implement her into the group or reintegrate her into the group, where similarly they could do the same thing with Black Widow.
Yeah.
They could go to Black Widow from Civil War and pull her out from there and then, create a divergent timeline. But I don't know if they're going to do that.
Well, that's the interesting thing is she does have the solo movie coming up, supposedly.
Right.
There's got to be some way they've already thought about working her back in, I would think.
I would hope so, because unless, again, it could be just one of those things where the actress, Scarlett Johansson, is, she's been part of all these movies. Maybe she's going to demand a little bit more top dollar.
Yeah.
To continue, and they have to keep paying her. Some of those big characters are no longer viable, or it's not going to be, not that it wouldn't be profitable, because you can throw any movie out there right now and slap that Marvel logo on there and it'll make $1 billion.
That leads me to something. Are we sure about that? Because is this the end? Are people still going to get interested now that this storyline is over?
Well, let's see. Spider-Man Far From Home is coming out, and I guess that'll be the barometer.
I guess, but I think the movies that aren't even made yet are going to be the ones that are kind of the barometer. I think if they're introducing new characters, they're doing a second Captain Marvel, possibly a second Doctor Strange. A lot of people, like, I love Doctor Strange. I thought it was great, but there was a lot of people that didn't really care for it.
Right. I get that. What about Black Panther?
The Black Panther, same thing. Like Black Panther, like I loved it as a movie, but character-wise, I wasn't really crazy about it. Like, I don't know. I just feel like if they're doing all these other characters and they're adding in new ones, a lot of us would stay for that extra scene at the end because it helped get people addicted to connecting the dots. And I feel like, how are they going to do that in the next phase? Do they pick up a different storyline?
Yeah,
I think like a bigger
Fantastic Four.
Well, does it have to be Fantastic Four? Could it be Secret Wars? Which, well, it could be Fantastic Four anyway. But
I don't think
they're
going to go the comic route. I think we're going to see the last of, unless we see a resurgence of Captain America with Sam Wilson as Captain America. I think Captain Marvel is going to lead the pack, so to speak. Captain Marvel and Black Panther. Those are.
Yeah, and they were the ultimates in the comics, the last version anyway. So
you can also bring the Vision back.
Yep.
Because basically his body is still in Wakanda somewhere. Who's to say Shuri didn't do a backup? Yeah,
I just mean as far as getting a major storyline to tie all the movies together. You know what I mean? Like here we had the basically the Infinity Stones, Infinity Gauntlet kind of storyline. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now it's like, well, what's the next? Are they going to use the next big storyline? Like I said, like Secret Wars that was just huge.
What if they do? What's your call it?
Well, think about but here's the thing. Think about Secret Wars. like at least in the last iteration, it's like that, or even the first iteration, Doctor Doom it's a good way to bring Doctor Doom into the fold.
That's what I was going to say. Doom, sorcerer.
Yeah.
Then you have
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, the Doctor Strange tie-in. He can get a bigger role, and then you can bring in, eventually you can bring in like some of the, because I know they're doing the Eternals.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know. I mean, I've heard that, but you hear all kinds of things.
I think they're working on more international stuff. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting project.
That's what I'm saying. I'm curious to see where it goes and what they do, because the other thing about Secret Wars is that they can really like warp realities. They can really, Doctor Doom basically is a god and can do whatever he wants. And
I don't think they'll go that extreme yet, because they just barely or basically just introduced time travel. So I think they're not gonna want to do anything like too heavy, being like, oh, here's all this other new stuff. I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna introduce other characters, and then that's gonna bleed into, I think, the Fantastic Four is gonna be essentially their new Avengers. I think that's gonna be, that Fantastic Four movie is essentially gonna be, maybe we'll get introduced to other minor characters in some of these other movies. Yeah. Maybe like the Silver Surfer or something like that.
I guess the other thing is where the X-Men come in.
Right, and that's another one too.
There's so much that can be done. It's almost like I'm just wondering what their approach is going to be.
I think the X-Men are going to probably take not a backseat, but probably at least another 4 to 5 years, I think, before we see another X-Men movie.
Well, there's so many characters to work in that it'd be a lot to pull into the new phase, I would think, at this point.
Right, and I think. Again, with the whole thing about the multiverse, maybe you don't need to do origin stories, but maybe you can just show, this is what's happening in the multiverse, and then something happens, and these other characters, again, because if we look at the trailer for Spider-Man: Far From Home, Nick Fury says as much, that, hey, guess what? This character, this being, he's from Earth, just not on our Earth. Mm-hmm. So basically, what if the X-Men, and what if something happened and merged some of these realities, or it opened up these portals, and all of a sudden, the X-Men fell through, or something else, or maybe it's something where it happens in a separate universe, and it's not connected, and then Doom does get enough power, and he snaps his hands, and it brings in all these different realities together.
Yeah,
we don't know, but there's, we can go along for the ride, and that could be the span of the next 10 years. I know
Dude will be 50.
Hey, speak for yourself, man. I'll be mid-40s.
I'll be 50. You want to hit Game of Thrones? We don't have too much time left.
Yeah. Let's do some Game of Thrones. Basically, what I want to get from you is, I think we talked about after the first episode, we talked about it. So everything that happened up, we want to talk about the Night King. We want to talk about this last episode, episode 5. So we want to talk about the Battle of Winterfell, and then the Battle at King's Landing, and just give me some, and then at the end of it, I just want you to kind of predict who do you see ending up on the throne at the end of everything.
Let's see. Battle of Winterfell.
We saw the Night King.
We saw Arya kill the Night King. Spoiler if you haven't seen it, obviously.
Spoilers.
Spoilers there. So, yeah, that was interesting. I didn't like the fact that we didn't get more about the Night King.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They just kind of wrapped it up, and it's like, oh, here was this person that they spent so much time, not person, but character, they spent so much time showing these odds and ends of him over the years, leaving people so curious about him, and then to just be like, oh, yep, he's dead. No further explanation. Nothing.
You'll hear, for those listening to the show, you'll hear a little bit later my thought on the Night King.
Yeah, I just wanted more out of that. I just wanted to know more at that time.
Yeah, I think it was a catalyst, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Greyjoy, the people that did die, Greyjoy, Theon went out like a champ. He made it up to Sansa, basically. He redeemed himself. We had Mormont. Right, we had him. Jorah
go down, and then let's see, who else did we have? The Crow there. What was his name? I always forget the guy's name.
Ed.
Yep. And then we had
Little Mormont.
Yep, but then she went out like a champ too.
Yeah.
But also we had what's his name? The guy that got killed 19 times.
Was it Beric?
Yes. We had him too.
Yep, and then at the end, Melisandre.
Yep, at the end, Melisandre. But, it was so funny. All those deaths happened in that, and I said to myself at the end, it wasn't enough death. I just wanted an A-list character to get hit there. And that would have made it more interesting to me.
Well, fast forward.
The only other thing about that people complained was obviously you couldn't see. Some people
and I get that. And there was another scene with a coffee cup later on. But, you talk about A-list characters. Well, let's talk about this last episode 5, where there was the battle at King's Landing. What do you think of all that?
It just all seems a little rushed, I guess is the word for me. You got this whole battle over in like half an episode, basically. If you think about it, it wasn't really like the whole episode. And there were things that were just, I'm sure you probably liked, as you mentioned to me the other day.
Yeah, we were talking about how we both had different opinions. The Hound in the Hound in the Mountain battle to me was very. I wanted a winner, even if the Hound lost. I wanted a winner. I wanted to see that. I kind of didn't like the fact that they just both, died. Both like pushed them off of the tower, and they both just fell to their deaths. Like, to me, that was just like kind of lame. I think the other thing is obviously Cersei's death. So underwhelming. So just because you wanted her to go out a different way.
I wanted her to go out in a way where she suffered as she did to the people that she made suffer.
This is why I disagree, because I thought both of those were handled so differently and so much better than what I expected. And by that, what I mean is, I think everybody's expecting it's going to be this big moment, and it's going to be this big moment. Mm-hmm. And for it to not be, I was like, that is so Game of Thrones, because it's never what you expect it's going to be. You always expect it's going to be all the way from the beginning in season 1 with Ned Stark being executed to the Red Wedding to anything that if you haven't read, it was so shocking. I think to go the opposite route, where you're already going to expect this big death or this big, long, drawn-out battle, and it's not that, I'm like, oh, my God, that is so good. That is so smart. It is so different, and it's so, in line with the way this world works, where it's expect the unexpected. The way you think it's going to go is never the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I get that. I just, there was a lot of holes for me, too.
Yep.
I just felt especially on Daenerys' attack, and
what? So this is good. I love this, because I've been having discussions with it.
And I think Martin wasn't happy with this as well. I think, the author was just this is something that should probably take 2 seasons, not 2 episodes. You know what I mean?
And I get that. As far as
and I get that. But for me, it was okay, so the previous episode, we saw, what's his name? Rayon, right?
What, the dragon?
No, the guy, the Greyjoy's uncle there, the Iron Islands.
Euron.
Euron. Remember that previous episode? He was just shooting that thing off the giant crossbow thing there. Right. You know what I mean? And they took down a dragon in 2 shots. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's so Daenerys flies down from the top, which I get. That's a surprise. They can't see. Mm-hmm. She's coming down from the clouds, and I get that. So she got the jump on them. So I get how she kind of took out the fleet, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to the King's Landing part, there are so many of those things all around, and we didn't see a single other shot.
Because she didn't go from the front. She went from behind. They were all pointing toward the front, toward the army, toward the Unsullied, toward all of them. They were waiting for the dragon, and it came in from behind.
But can they turn?
They can, but not fast enough for to that time.
Okay, but my thing is though, I guess wouldn't you be trying? Like I don't know. I
get that point. I get that point.
You know what I mean? Like it just looks like there wasn't enough effort on. They made it look like this giant, over-armored, over-defended kind of place, and I just felt like there was no effort then behind it after that.
Well, maybe she learned from the previous, episode where she lost one of her dragons. She's like, okay, well, I got to approach this differently.
I'm talking about the people defending King's Landing. There's no from Cersei's people, the Lannisters, the
Golden
Army. all the guards, the Golden Army, like whoever's left, like there was just no. It was like no fight at all. Like
because they all got fried. They all got fried, taken from behind. The entire Golden Company got taken out, and then she had like her army, and then they saw with the dragon. The dragon's like there, and it's like, okay, you're really gonna fight this? All of your scorpions are out. There's nothing that can take out the dragon.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, so we can either all burn or we can surrender from this army and this fire-breathing beast.
You didn't care.
Well, that's the thing, but that's not at that point. Because then the bell rang, and that's when everything went to crap because she's sitting on, Drogon, and she's looking at the Red Keep, the Red Keep that I believe was her the Targaryens built, if I'm not mistaken, all that time ago, and she sees she knows Cersei's still in there, and she went all Mad Queen. So did you think that was rushed? Like, did you see that coming?
Yes. Well, I mean, we saw it coming, but it's just rushed. It's just
how so?
I mean, we're talking a matter of what? 2 episodes? Really?
Yeah.
Like I just feel like that.
But has it been 2 episodes? Has it been 2 episodes when you really think about it? When you talk about her from, losing her children, her first dragon, when they went to go get one of the White Walkers, she lost one of her dragons.
That was against the White Walkers. That wasn't against Cersei. So
right,
me,
I know, but what I'm saying is your emotional state. You can't have children. You've watched the first love of your life die. And then you got revenge on the witch that killed him, and then you're continuing to fight for this power, and then you fall in love a couple other times. You have to say goodbye to that love. Then you go and you fall in love with Jon Snow. You end up losing one of your children. Now that you can't have children anymore based on what was done to you previous, now you lose one of your children or something you consider a child to help this man that you love. Then, fast forward, you lose your second child. Then you lose your best friend and mentor. Then, or, your protector, somebody who loved you unconditionally. Then you lose your closest friend and advisor in the Sunday. Then you lose, then it's like the man that you love that you did all this other stuff for, and the reason that you lost one of your children no longer returns that love. And then you see you see the symbol of where this other person should be, and this is your entire goal, your whole life was to take this throne, and you see this tower that she's sitting in, that that she's in. It's like, it's enough. I was talking with Don, and you'll hear it in the interview a little bit later. I talk about it. He relates it to something else, and I relate it to the Killing Joke. The Joker just has the guy that's a stand-up comedian has one bad day. He has one bad day, and he flips, and he becomes a psychopath. And I can totally see that happening with Daenerys because she's lost so much. And I think that's just like it's totally within her character to do that, especially if that's been your entire goal is to take that throne. You have nothing left. You're all alone. Nobody else is, you don't trust anybody else.
I can understand all that, but I think the thing is that a big excitement for the show was her moral compass.
Well, she and I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned, you'll hear this again later when I talk with Don. She doesn't have a moral compass because even from season 1, she doesn't have that moral compass because when Drogon is dumping that melted gold over her brother's head, she doesn't get scared or seem afraid of it. She wants that to happen. She's looking intently, like, yeah, that's happening to you. You deserve this. She said something along the lines of he was no dragon when he died because he was burned by that. And she's not. She is pure fire, and she's not going to let anything else stop her. And that the symbols and the symbolism and the signs were all there all throughout the seasons, and we just never picked up on them.
Yeah, I can feel that. I can definitely feel that. I guess now the next question is: so who do we think will sit on the throne?
Well, that's how I want to end this. I want to end this with, who do you think is going to end on the throne? What do you think is going to happen to some of the major characters? I've already given my. You'll have to listen a little bit later to hear my prediction, but I want you to go ahead, KB, and give me how do you think the story plays out? Do you think it's going to be John versus Danny? And if that's the case, who wins? And then, in your opinion, who sits on the Iron Throne?
I want to say it is John versus Danny, but hopefully they just surprise us and do something totally different. But I want to say that it's going to be John versus Danny.
Yeah.
And John will take Danny down and will not want the throne, and Therion will take it.
You think it's going to be Tyrion?
Tyrion, yeah.
I would love to see Tyrion on the throne. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, well, that's why I was thinking of it. I'm like, John doesn't really want it. If you wanted to, like, how do I say it? Like, in real life, statistically, look at it. You know what I mean? Like, that would make a lot of sense. John doesn't want it.
Would Tyrion have a claim now that Daenerys has legitimized Gendry as a Baratheon, since Baratheon was the last king, theoretically?
No. Well,
with Joffrey Baratheon.
Joffrey Baratheon. Yeah, the Baratheons are the last kings. So, yeah, I mean that could happen too. Could see that happening. That'd actually be really good. That would be really good.
I could see Tyrion as the hand of whoever the king would be.
Well, and then the question is does Sansa end up anywhere in this discussion?
Where do you think?
As an outside long shot? I don't know. I mean, her and Tyrion is just like, in the Battle of Winterfell episode, there seemed to be a closeness, but at the same time, she also kind of played him a lot.
Right.
You know
so
what I mean?
she's been learning from Littlefinger, dude. She's learned from the best.
Littlefinger, Cersei, so who's
she's doing everything.
Yeah, she's gonna break out the Dark Phoenix on them.
So do you? That's great. Do you think she's got a chance to sit on the throne?
I think it's an outside chance.
Okay, but your guess is Tyrion.
Yeah, I mean, unless Jon doesn't want it, and Jon's a Stark. Jon still has. Well, not a Stark.
He's a
Stark,
Targaryen.
I guess. And he's a Targaryen, but
and the North also has his back.
Yeah, so it could be possible. I don't want it, and Sansa's in charge. You don't know. It's hard to say. But I think she has an outside chance. And you got to think about what she set in motion by just basically saying to him, like, just telling Tyrion about it. You know what I mean? Because Tyrion is going to go and tell somebody else, and it's all, Sansa intentionally planted that, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
So her thing is she wants Jon on the throne, but then if that's the case, Jon doesn't want it. She knows Jon doesn't want it, and voila, you have maybe a Sansa Stark on the throne. I don't know.
I'm curious to see how it's going to be. So we have KB's prediction locked in. Keep listening, folks.
Sansa's going to turn into the Dark Phoenix.
Okay, there you go. And she's gonna resurrect a bunch of stuff, and Theon's coming back and all that.
Turns into the Night King. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, KB, for your insight. We look forward. We're going to have I was telling Don, a little bit later, that I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks after the finale, maybe we should all get together again and kind of discuss the series as a whole.
Definitely. It's super exciting, and the ending is going to really determine if I rewatch this whole thing again or not. I just think back to The Sopranos and it all faded to black, and if they pull some stupid move like that, like something that's just asinine, I'd be a little upset.
Well, Sophie Turner was recently on Jimmy Fallon, and he brought out actually like a patient chart on like how much pain the patient is in, from 0 to 10. And he said, without spoiling it, how are people going to feel about the ending of Game of Thrones, and she pointed to 10 saying, like, agony. So I wonder how true that's going to be. I guess we'll have to wait until next week to figure it out. But KBe, thank you for joining me this week, and we'll be coming back a little bit momentarily with our interview with Don. And thank you for listening to For Your Geek, and KBe, thanks for everything.
Definitely, brother, definitely.
I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, I want to quickly tell you about 4041 Media. It is a collection of podcasts in the southeastern Massachusetts region, including For Your Geek, and we are proud to be part of the 4041 Media family. So check out 4041media.com to listen to For Your Geek, or if you happen to be a movie buff, check out Movie Theater Time Machine. Or if you want to know why the crazies do the crimes that they do, check out the Psych Your Crime podcast. 4041 Media, by listeners, for listeners.
And we are here with the Don to talk a little bit of Game of Thrones. Donnie, what is going on, my friend?
Dum 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 dum. Game of Thrones season 8 probably was the thing that I have been super looking forward to, and it has been extremely lacking in certain areas for me. But I am not one of the people that are hating on Sunday's episode.
So, as of this recording, we are 5 episodes in. We are in the end game of Thrones, if you will. That's the name of the episode. So, End Game of Thrones. So, KBe and I are going to be talking a little bit about Endgame, and then we're going to kind of go into Game of Thrones and talk about that. But I know for you and I, just discussing it, you and I are big fans of the Game of Thrones. We've been talking about it for a while, or at least both hyping each other up. So I want to know. We haven't really talked about this season. So let's go. What I know you said it's been lacking for you in a certain area, but let's start off with just the beginning of season 8. Everything is set. Where do we go from here? We know Jon's true heritage, but he doesn't know it as of yet.
I would have to say, last time you and I spoke, you were so perfect with it, and you said season 8 episode 1 mirrors season 1 episode 1 more. Correct. So in so many ways that nobody's really spoke about. This is the first time since season 1 that we've had the largest group of main characters being in the same place at the same time for the same purpose. That's exciting. That's what we all have been waiting for. Oh, everyone's getting back together now and da-da-da. And I feel that only certain storylines have made me feel okay. I feel that this whole Daenerys is the Batman of the show. Die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. She's unfortunately...
It's funny you say that. Go ahead. Finish your thoughts. I have a counter to that.
Because, and then in the complete polar opposite is to see Cersei Lannister humanized finally with that single teardrop, after everything. I have never, not even when Cersei was held by the High Sparrow himself, I have never seen Cersei Lannister defeated. I saw her get beat and look at a woman and say, my face will be the last face you ever see. Cersei Lannister is finally, was destroyed. And I don't mean, killed or anything. I mean, the person who, her aura, her being,
everything she was about was destroyed. Yeah. Every ounce of her personality, of her, just her personage, her being was wiped out.
It was, she wears, especially in the last moments, you could see, the confident Cersei Lannister was there, but it's just a shell of her. Her words were all empty. No, all it takes is one clean shot. And Qyburn tells her, we don't have any more scorpions left. Oh, well, the fleet. There is no fleet. And she still, stands there, and she fights it even longer.
Well, I want to go back on what you said on her being the Batman, Daenerys being the Batman of this. I think she's more like the Joker, believe it or not. Because the Killing Joke, all you need is that one bad day. And let's look at everything she's lost. She's lost half her Dothraki army. She's lost some of her Unsullied. She's lost 2 of her most trusted advisors.
Whoa, wait, you're only saying 2. How about 2 in a week? She lost Sir Barrister already. She lost her, like, guardian, like, Grey Worm we look at as, like, Grey Worm's her protector. No, Dario was dead in love with her and her protector, just like the other one was. Just like Mormon, just like Jorah was. Like, she had 2 men that would literally, one did die for her, and the other one was still willing to. Like, I don't know. Oh, man.
So she's been through the emotional ringer, and then the one person that she has now giving her heart to, recently, Jon Snow, she finds out not only is she not meant for the throne, there's somebody that has more of a claim to it, and it's also the man that she loves, and now he can't love her back.
He is not only not able to love her back, but he's disgusted with himself for actually loving her back. He can't do it, but he does. And in his world that he grew up in, you can't love your aunt. Like, it's just not, he was raised in the North. Varys and Tyrion, like, say these things to each other, and they're valid, they're true. Oh, man. It's just, it's coming to, so that's what we're on. We're on Jon and Daenerys.
Jon and Daenerys, and then we can even talk about, like, Daenerys' whole circle. Like, you know, you talk about Tyrion. Tyrion's been making bad choices as her hand. Varys has been plotting against her.
Well,
and if you use the last episode.
Yep, I just want to go. I want to focus on Tyrion. Tyrion is realistically, he is not making bad choices. He is underestimating. He has never had to battle other Lannisters. He's using all his tactics against people who use the same tactics and know he's going to attack me this way. So they're playing chess and they're just ahead of Tyrion. Tyrion's a thinker, but he's not a strategist. No matter what, Cersei, like, is not a warrior, but she'll tell everybody how to get stuff done and create fear to make people do it. Jaime is noble and gallant, and he's done this all. People will follow him even with a golden right hand where he can't fight the way he's supposed to. Like, not that saying, like, I'm talking, wow, I just brought it back to season 7. Right now, here we are, though, like, I want you to know, like, yeah, it does look like very much Tyrion's making all these bad choices. Varys actually did. That was the second name. Varys actually did betray her, and I didn't know. I didn't notice it at first. Did you?
Did you pick it up when he said she's not eating?
No, I did. I thought that, like, he was concerned for her. My cousin Brendan actually brought it to my attention that, like, yo, he was trying to poison her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And come to find out, the other parallels we talked about, the opening of season 8, referencing, parallels season 1. How about this? Ned Stark, right before he was executed, was writing a script, possibly for a Raven, that Joffrey was not the legitimate son of Robert Baratheon. And then Varys, in his last act, he was writing a script saying, that Jon Snow is actually a Targaryen. And
exactly.
They both get executed, and they're both executed for trying to tell the truth, if you will.
Yes, the unfortunate thing with Varys, well, no, here's the mystery. Who is he sending it to?
Good point.
Honestly, like, I have no idea. Who do you send that to? Sansa already knows. Sansa holds, like, are you trying to send that to Dorne? Because Dorne's already swore to Daenerys. The Iron Islands already sworn to Daenerys. Realistically, the Riverlands and the whole North would support Jon Snow, whatever's left of the Riverlands. But even so, like, there is no one that letter mattered to. When Varys is writing that, who? We have the whole collective besides who Cersei has.
Right. Yeah, I don't know who he would send it to. Maybe somebody from the Iron Islands, or maybe Yara would, like, realize, like, okay, we pledged our allegiance to the Targaryens, but she's not the best Targaryen. She's not. I mean, how do you kind of figure out? Like,
well, I look at it like this, and this is the truth. Yara Greyjoy does control probably the last fleet. Okay, she probably holds the last fleet, but she stands no real threat to Jon Snow. And on top of it, she doesn't know enough about anything to really take one side or the other. You know what I mean? If she would get this letter from Varys saying Jon's the true king, this and that, who cares? It doesn't, you know what I mean? In her eyes, it doesn't matter. Jon doesn't really have a dragon, or, you know.
Well, that's what I'm curious about as we're going into the last episode. Like, where do you see it going? Do you see it going to be Jon versus Daenerys?
I think that Arya kills Daenerys. That dragon Jon takes and leaves. The last person that Jon gave power to was Sansa Stark. I've been saying it for years, man. Sansa will sit on the Iron Throne because nobody was trained to be that kind of leader that Westeros needs, and the most grimy, like, she knows how to be noble from her father, and then, what is it, nature versus nurture or whatever? Yeah. The nature of her knows everything that her father has taught her, you know what I mean? And, like, then her life experience has taught her how to rule in the other aspect.
Now, how many times have you watched the last few episodes? Have you seen them multiple times, or were they only?
I've watched the last 3 episodes 3 times apiece.
Okay, so there was a scene, I can't remember what episode it was, between Tyrion and Bran, where Tyrion wants to, I think it's right before the Battle of Winterfell.
It is. You're talking about season 2. I mean, episode 2.
He says something to the lines of, did he say something along the lines of Bran that he'd be Lord of Winterfell?
So he goes, "You're Ned Stark's last born son," blah blah blah, and he did. He said all that to him, and he said, "No, I'm not." Like, but Bran's been saying that since frickin' Jojen Reed died, and Marion Reed dragged him all the way back to the wall and gets him back to Winterfell. And she's like, "I'm going home," and he just, like, you know, he lets everybody know, like, I'm not really Bran Stark anymore.
But what did he? I wonder. Like, I have to go rewatch that. I wonder.
Well,
what he said to Tyrion. Did he say he didn't want it?
He did say he didn't. Like, he said that it's really not for him. But what was more interesting to me in the interactions between the two of them is when Tyrion makes a little comment about the wheelchair that he's in, and then he's like, you know, he asks him about what's going on or what he's been through, and it's like, it's a long story. And then Tyrion, smart ass, just goes like, "If only we were in a castle alone in the middle of winter with nowhere to go." That's the conversation between them two that I would have loved to hear.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is because there was another scene a little bit later where Tyrion and Varys were talking about how Jon was the true heir to the Iron Throne, and Tyrion said he doesn't want it. And Varys said, well, maybe it's somebody that doesn't want to rule who will be the best ruler of all. So I wonder if that's even foreshadowing Bran, because my thought was, imagine having that power of the three-eyed raven to be able to see all the mistakes in the history of the past and know what worked and what didn't work, and be a ruler that can go back and look at the past to see what happened.
God, I love your, like, you can tell why you're definitely one of my best friends. Like, you have such a great imagination, and you took a lot of pieces right there, and you made something that could make sense completely. But what I think of, right, and this is like me going off into like a different, like, I don't know, movie universe, but, dude, like, the true king, like, a true leader doesn't want, like, oh, God, what movie is this from? Like, they say, people who want power and want to, like, lead, and they'll do anything for that. Like, a true born leader doesn't need the record. Oh, my God, how about Tywin Lannister in the series? Any man who says he's king is no king. Any man who's going to say, like, Jon Snow is the opposite of that. Like, I understand, like, hey, we love, like, I can't even say we love Bran. I'm going to be honest. Bran is probably, like, the boring.
He's a
I know,
weirdo.
But even beyond that, dude, his whole story arc, and the only, like, thing is they tied him into Jon's story arc with the Night King. Like, we will, you know what I mean? Like, unless Bran's going to take us through the past, unless Bran's going to have more, like, psychedelic trip outs where he's seeing all these different events, Bran's been boring. Bran is, could you imagine that? Like, could you imagine, like, how, like, they all say that we're going to be upset with the ending. How happy would you be if Bran sat on the Iron Throne? That right there, that, like, that's our superhero comics and stuff that we watch. Like, oh, my God, imagine having a ruler who could go back to the past and make sure this doesn't happen again. And if this does, like, imagine, like, but realistically, dude, I just don't see it being like that. I look at the way Game of Thrones has been set up, and I'm going all the way. I'm just going to cover all of Game of Thrones without getting any specifics.
Mm-hmm.
They have given us leaders who none of them are meant to lead. Robert, show opens up with a warrior, a straight warrior who wants to win battles, hunt, kill, drink, all that, and has no concern about a kingdom. No concern about it all. Then we move to our replacement, his quote-unquote son, Joffrey, who is literally just obsessed with the title and thinks with the title, cruelty comes along with it. And then we move beyond that to Tommen. Tommen is just like pure.
He's innocent. He's pure innocence and naivety, and he has no experience, and he doesn't. He's the polar opposite of what Joffrey was.
And then.
But he's also easily manipulated by the Sept and all that other stuff. So.
Yes, but more so than the Sept is Marjorie, and that's acceptable. I mean, like, oh God, she got Cersei was right. Like, granted, Cersei's evil, but she knew what Marjorie was doing. We were all on Marjorie's side because, oh my God, it's Marjorie and she's nice. And dude, I'm telling you, man, like, we really don't know what these crazy women will do. Like, Marjorie could have set up a whole other scenario too.
Marjorie is playing her own game.
She was right from the beginning. But anyway,
Let's bring it back to characters that are still alive on this show. So obviously that means we're leaving out, and again, spoilers. I'll mention this at the top of the show, but obviously we're spoiling it because we've seen the first 5 episodes. But as of now, Cersei and Jaime are donezo.
Okay,
how are you feeling about Jaime? Let's go back to that and talk about Jaime and his whole tryst with Brienne, and then subsequently, like, leaving her and going back to Cersei.
I can tell you this from personal experience. I completely understand Jaime Lannister. Jaime Lannister has, from the beginning of the show, from season 1, like, I hate this guy. He's perfect, and I hate him for being perfect. And even though he's a creep, and then from season 2 on, literally from season 2 on, this man became my favorite character. He had to deal with so much real life weird stuff, or like being bound to somebody else, and I don't know. The whole tryst with Brienne shows me this. He is a good man. She even says it to him, and he has so much guilt over the stuff that he has done, over the toxic, twisted love that woman has created with him, that this guy says, I can't have happiness. She is of hatred, and so am I. But I really feel like nobody got to kill Cersei because of Jaime's redemption throughout the show. Like, honestly, like, how awful would it be for us to see Jaime go back, try to go save her, just for Arya to slit her throat as he gets there? You know what I mean? There was nothing that, oh, man. It would have been great for me if he would have stood with Brienne. But, I mean, honestly, them two are sick, twisted, and toxic, and they get to die together. And their love get to die together.
It's funny you say that because there were a lot of people I was talking to that were thinking when he left Brienne, he was realizing how toxic Cersei was, and he was going to kill her. And I'm like, there's no way. This woman is how they've had such, like you said, just this toxic love between each other. I think for me, it's the equivalent of, you're this type of guy that has this really bad relationship, and you're a good person, and then you move on, but then you realize. And I think that the turning point was when Sansa said, I always thought I was going to be there when they execute your sister. It's a shame I'm going to miss it. And I think that kind of went off hey, she's really in danger. Or this is a finality.
Finality, you nailed it. That's the word I was hoping you said.
I truly love her. I need to get back to her, and that's why now it's here's I bring this whole kind of parallel with, this is the girl that I love versus this is the girl that I deserve. This is the good girl that I should be with, but she's not the one I really love. I'm attracted to this girl. We had this flirtation, but it's still this other one that has this hold on me. And I think that's the whole thing with him and Cersei. And I think that's what he was trying to tell Brienne when he said, she's hateful and so am I. Like, the fact is, like, we're like, I love her. Like, this is who I love. I can't help it. Like, as much as I like, I am this honorable person, or he had this redemption, it's still that love that, like, it's somebody was complaining to me about saying, like, how it's like these characterizations, they're undoing all this characterization. And to me, I'm like, no, it's actually furthering their character, because you're seeing them, like, kind of devolve and go back to something. It's like a relapse. When somebody relapses,
yes.
from drugs or anything like that, it's a relapse for him. And, he almost got out. And yes, it'd be great if there was, like, a typical series where, he overcomes all this and he's, a hero in the end. But that's not the world that we live in. That's not the world that we live in the Game of Thrones world.
No, and in the real world, it's not either, dude. Like, as much as I want to, like, complain about one thing or another with the show, like, I was very happy with both of their deaths. So, like, I wanted Jamie to live. I 100% wanted Jamie to live. But there was no better way of going out on this than them two dying together. I mean, as much as you want to hate Cersei, all of Cersei's kids got killed. All of them. Like, Cersei's prophecy came true on way too many occasions. The witch that told her when she was a kid that you'll have all these kids and they'll have golden shrouds and they'll all die. But beyond that, way back when Cersei was going at Tyrion, right? Tyrion told her, like, you'll be paid back for this. When you taste the ash in your mouth or whatever it may have been, like it was crazy, because this is geek stuff, like I'm not talking specific. Like, you and I know that the actors didn't know the ending of this show.
Right.
So for them to take something way back then, like the conversation, like, dude, like even the words, like when you feel like the dust and ash in your mouth or whatever, like, then you'll know you've been paid back for this. You know what I mean? Oh man, like I know that's like your memory.
That's very deep. It's a very it's a deep cut. But you just reminded me of something else when we were talking about that. When you were talking about Cersei, if you want to talk about how Cersei's like this evil, manipulative person, and going back to some conversation, we were talking about the characterization, and some people were saying, what Daenerys is doing is so uncharacteristic for her.
Hey, guys.
I'm sorry.
We don't know. I was looking to we have somebody else joining the call. Yeah, basically, like, Cersei lost, and it's funny, it's all kind of tied together. Cersei lost her children. She lost her love. She lost everything she, like, built up. And, she's not that she's mad, but she's very...
You're awesome for where you're going with it.
The parallels with Daenerys, where she's lost her dragons, her children. Yep. She's lost her closest advisors. She's lost, her family, if you will. And then she's lost everything. She doesn't have a claim to the throne anymore, just like Cersei really doesn't, because now they, the Targaryen's coming back. Well, now the crown and the throne isn't really yours. She's the true. And now Daenerys is being, ousted by Jon. It's this whole, thing where, you can see her becoming, like Cersei was, desperate and unhinged and just, evil. And I think it's just really good characterization. Now, don't get me wrong, would I like to have seen Daenerys come in and, be all this, this true,
be the Wonder Woman,
yeah.
Be the super, but honestly, look at how I led with, I know I led with the Batman thing, but it's true, she 100%, oh man.
And you go back to season 1, when her brother, where Drogo is pouring the molten gold over her brother's head. She is not flinching. She is not scared.
She ate a horse's heart.
Right, but I'm saying even before that though, look the scenes that took place. Yeah, the horse's heart, the gold. It was there the whole time. The seeds were planted right back then that she was kind of not cold-hearted, but she was willing to do whatever it takes. Now you can say yes, he was an asshole and he inappropriately touched her. He sold her to get the Dothraki army so he could take the throne. And, it's revenge. The same thing with the slavers, everything else, everyone that she killed, you can pretty much say, they had it coming. I absolutely agree with that. But the fact is, when you have, even fast forward to last season with the Tarleys, who are defeated and they won't bend the knee, and Tyrion's trying to tell her, don't kill them. They keep them as prisoners.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to. Like that, regardless. Like those are prisoners. And then we saw the same thing happen. And that's why I think there's going to be a throwdown with Grey Worm and Jon Snow.
Well, we had the face. We had the
he looked
down.
back. Yeah, so basically what happened is after the Golden Company basically, and Cersei's army basically threw down their weapons, Daenerys just went crazy and started frying everybody, and then the Unsullied, led by Grey Worm, started attacking these unarmed soldiers. I'm like, and Jon's trying to hold the soldiers back, and Grey
his
Worm
own men.
gave them a look. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Grey Worm, so I'm like, oh, there's going to be a throwdown at some point. And again, Grey Worm is going off. He's going off his grief as well because he saw a lot of his life killed and beheaded.
But
by
how about
Cersei.
You know how we were talking about characters progressing and everything when it comes to stuff like that? Yep. How about the fact that Grey Worm was probably, he even said it in one of the episodes, the bravest of the Unsullied. I had no fears. I had blah, blah, blah. Like, he told, like, dude, he got his nipple cut off by the guy and didn't flinch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, oh, God, where was I just going with that? So, when Grey Worm ends up letting this woman into his heart and falls for her, he tells her, you have become my weakness. Like some men, some guys like are afraid of water, they throw them in the water. They're afraid of dogs, they make them sleep with dogs. He's like, me, I had no fear. Now you are my weakness. You are my fear. Like, and then her getting her head chopped off was just too much. But what was even crazier, and this is just me, I watch a lot of TV, I watch a lot of movies, blah, blah, blah. Cersei Lannister was right there on the side of her, whispering in her ear. Any last words? My last words would have been like, tuck and roll, bitch, here we go, and pull her off the thing with me. Right there, boom, Cersei's dead, war's over. Boom, it's a wrap. She's on the ground, broken down.
True.
But,
But hey, let's look at this. This could have led to what made Daenerys make her decisions. What did she say before she was decapitated?
Yeah, Dracarys, and unfortunately, look what happens, dude. Oh man. So
I want to talk about more characters.
Yeah. Okay. So I always go along from villain to villain. I'm like, oh, it's a good villain. It's a really good villain. I hate this guy so much. So one of our newest villains, who I actually have grown to kind of like, just on his warrior aspect, is Euron Greyjoy. From the second that he dropped his claws onto their boats and captured the sand snakes and beat the Greyjoys and all that, I was like, oh, this guy is really as good as he says he is. This is not a joke. But the fact that his fleet gets taken out and then him and he is so arrogant. I guess I maybe enjoy his arrogance a little. But him and Jaime, my favorite character, have a fight. It looks like he beats Jaime, and he tells him, you fought well for a cripple. And he's like, even after all that, in his crazy head, all he cares about is that he stabbed Jaime in the back. I'm the man who killed cowboys. Sorry, my son's all about his show right now.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with cowboys. Unfortunately, there's none of them in Game of Thrones.
None in Game of Thrones. We'll get on Westworld next season. I
want to talk about Euron real quick though before we get into what happened. I think the reason why I like him so much, and I think he's so enjoyable, is because you've always had kind of Cersei as the main villain, if you will, the dastardly person throughout the series. But as far as male antagonist villains, you had Joffrey, who was he was arrogant, but in a different sense. He thought he was owed, because of his title. Then you had Ramsay Bolton.
You're going, but don't forget, along the way, you just you went from major to major. You forgot about Walder Frey,
right?
Big scumbag. Along the way, who else? Dude, Littlefinger, wicked villain. All of these, you're right. You're talking about main antagonist to main antagonist.
Main antagonist, yeah.
But along the way, there were fillers. There were definitely fillers.
Yeah.
My God. Okay.
Joffrey between Ramsay and now this is a different type of villain that's dastardly, but because he's so arrogant and a little bit more out there. He's not like sadistic like Ramsay. So I think we had that sadisticness. The fact that this is a little bit of a different personality, I think makes him more likable. You know?
I'm going to tell you, this is what's crazy. Our three main villains, boom, 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 right? So we go, who was the first one I said? Was Joffrey or whatever?
Yep.
Dude, it's bastard after bastard after bastard. Like, have you picked up on that?
No, I did not.
Because, obviously, Joffrey's no real whatever. You know what I mean? He's not really the kid of, he's not Robert Baratheon's kid.
Right.
Ramsay, also a bastard, not a true to whatever. And then...
But was Euron still
that's
a
what
Greyjoy?
No, that's what I wanted to bring up. Okay, so the other two were, thank you. My brain gets foggy sometimes. Okay, so yeah, the other two were bastards. The thing that that's why the point I wanted to make. He is the first real villain since Tywin Lannister died, who is like a pureblood of his family. And what I love about him so much is he is if Oberyn is the protagonist, he is on that same level as Oberyn, in my eyes, as a warrior who's traveled the world, who learned how to fight everywhere. He is the negative version of what Oberyn was trying to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or what Oberyn actually was, you know?
And this is a good segue. How did Oberyn die?
Good segue into where we should definitely go next. The mountain. The mountain smushed his head. Pick it up, J-Free. Pick it up, baby. Go with it.
So we see the Hound and Arya sneak in to King's Landing, and she's there to kill Cersei. He's there to fight his brother. And as Daenerys is going a little buck wild, bringing down the city, the Hound basically tells Arya to look at him, and he says, "This is what you're going to become. If you stay here, you're going to die." And Arya kind of has almost like this. I want to go on a whole arc about her in a little bit, but we basically leave that piece where he goes to fight his brother as Cersei, Qyburn, and
Qyburn, Cersei, and the mountain
are walking down.
Yep.
And so it's getting to the point where, basically, the mountains wants to fight his brother, but Qyburn orders him to stop, and that's the end of Qyburn, pretty much. Well, Frankenstein is killed by his own monster.
And, Jeff, you're really good at this, man. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a perfect analogy. So it's funny because Qyburn says it's third. Cersei, one time, demands it. Stay next to your queen. And he turns and looks at her, and you could see he's, like, struggling for, like, a split second. And then he turns back and he's like, no, this is really what I got to do. You know what I mean? He wants to, like, and then she tries one more time and it doesn't get through. And then Qyburn really thinks he can tell him, listen to your queen. Like, come on. Hey, Qyburn, my friend keeps saying this and I get a kick out of it. Dead before impact. Like, that dude, before that dude even hit the ground, like, he was dead.
He was done. Done. But that also then now led to Clegane Bowl. And it was very poignant. It was very poetic the way it ended, in my opinion. But we see, like, for example, we see them fighting, and then the mountain just won't go down as much as the Hound is stabbing him with the sword. And then we get to the scene where the mountain grabs him by the eyes, puts the thumbs in the eyes, raises him up, is about to rip his skull apart. And the Hound takes a dagger and stabs him. The feeling around his face stabs him right through the head. Doesn't affect him. He's trying to pull the blade out, where then the Hound kind of opens his eye. He still has the use of one eye. He goes and he straight up tackles the mountain through the wall as they plummet down like multiple stories from one of those towers into the fire that the Daenerys' dragon has set ablaze to the city. And I thought it was very poetic how the Hound was made this way because his brother pushed his face to the fire, and that's how they both go out and they die. Is born from fire and death by fire.
By fire. Well, I thought what was really, I love the Clegane Bowl. I almost wish I could have gotten, like, I wish they weren't fighting on a stairwell, like, it, like,
it could have been a lot longer and a lot more, like, brutal, but I think the timing.
I just wanted to say this because, like, we kind of skipped by this. We both know that the Hound is amazing, but the Hound, before he even got into confrontation with his brother, cut down 4 of the Queen's guards with ease. 1 slice, 2 slice, 3 slice, 4.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, it was pretty incredible. And, like, obviously,
nothing was going to get in his way from what he wanted. You know, that's his purpose. That's what he's there for.
So that's okay. Thank you. This is what I've learned about season 8. Purpose. Everybody's purpose is being fulfilled, and then you can die.
Pretty much.
Like, that's just what I am getting out of this. Like, oh, you did it, die. Nope, you did this, die. Oh, you did this, die.
Well, this leads to my next point, but unless you want to wrap up with the Hound or the Mountain.
Well, I wanted to say this about it. Dude, like, when you were talking about, like, the Mountain holding the Hound up against the wall, dude, like, and he's, like, before his thumbs even get in his eyes, he's choking him. There's, like, no air getting to him. And that's when when he's stabbing him over and over in the neck, like, the Hound knows how to kill people. Those knife marks, when he's not trying to, like, he's trying to get that into his heart, like, through, like, that neck cavity or whatever, like, you know what I mean? And he's just like, why won't you die? And then he gets him in the head. And I'm still sitting there, and I'm like, zombie logic. You stab something in the head, it's dead.
It's supposed to be dead, yeah.
Yeah.
But zombies don't work that way in Game of Thrones.
No, they truly, truly don't. Zombies in Game of Thrones can still keep fighting when you do almost anything to them.
And that's where I want to go next, because what we didn't touch upon was a few episodes prior, the Battle of Winterfell, with the zombies, the White Walkers, and more specifically, Arya Stark.
Okay. Were you happy with the episode? Like, this is just before we start really talking about it and getting really into it.
I understand. I didn't mind it. I understand people that thought it was like, was that it? Was that all? But I think it's been a red herring. I don't think that the Night King, even though the series opens up with, one of the Night's Watch, I believe it is, like, abandoning their post because of the White Walkers, I think that's the threat that they have to, like, end. But the title of the series is called Game of Thrones, so I don't think it was ever going to be the White Walkers and the Night King as the last battle.
It would have been called The Long Night, which is a possible title for our prequel.
Right.
But you're right. We just all got caught up in it. Like, we got caught up in this Night King and zombies because it was a new aspect to the show. Like, we really all forgot about that. Like, we did get that first little clip in, like, episode 1, season 1. That's how the show opened. But when's the next time we heard about a White Walker? Not until somewhere in season 2, right?
Right. But
besides old man stories?
Right. But the thing is, the White Walkers, in essence, are a catalyst to turn, like, again, it's the plot device. It's the MacGuffin, if you will. It's the thing that turns Daenerys from the hero to the villain, because that's where she starts suffering her personal
losses. Yeah. Jeff, do you remember in season 7 when the episode called Dragonstone? I believe it may be the first episode of season 7. She pulls up the Dragonstone, finally gets into her family's castle, has all of her new allies. Yep. Olenna Tyrell. She has the Sand Snakes. She has the Greyjoys. She has, like, at least 9 people in there. And at the beginning of this episode, after Varys' little poisoning stunt, Tyrion goes to see her, and she's literally alone. Yep. She now has Grey Worm, and you can tell she doesn't trust Tyrion.
Right. And the love of her life, or one of, like, the person that she loves, doesn't love her back or can't love her back, and so she's totally alone. She's lost 2 of her babies. Like, there's just so much to that, and there's so much to, like, the depth of what that character must be thinking and going through, and the emotions that character must be feeling. I'm not, like, that's why I'm saying, like, I think it's great characterization. I know the fact that, it's uncharacteristic for her to typically do that based on what we've seen, but it also, to me, is like, I can totally get why she might be acting, quote unquote, out of character, because now she's just filled with loss and sadness and rage and just despair, and now she's just lashing out.
Dude, she's alone. Like, I feel bad for her. Like, but she's she suffers from what a lot of human beings suffer from, and it just shows the humanization of her, because people are spiteful. Dude, sometimes you can take an easy victory and just walk away and be happy with the victory that you have. But sometimes, like, when you know you were hurt and you were wronged by someone, you can't help but to want to retaliate and burn down the city and attack innocents when there's no, like, that's what happened. Like, that's what happens, man. I feel bad for her, man.
But let's go back, because again, it all started with the White Walkers and her losing one of her dragons. But let's just talk about the Night King and his demise. Did you see Arya being the one to pull the trigger, or do you think it was going to be Jon?
Never in a million years I think it was Arya. I thought it was Jon. I wanted to see Jon's sword fight with the Night King more than anything. I wanted to see the Night King's sword and Ghost. Well, Longclaw. I wanted to see them two like clash. I wanted to see what he could do, bro. We never saw anything he could do but throw a spear and raise people from the dead. Right. He never even quoted a word.
Right. Well, and my thing was, and then we talk about the long-term planning and stuff. How about Melisandre telling Arya when she caught back up with Arya, she's the one that told her she's supposed to kill the Night King. Like, she's the one that alluded to it.
Okay, so then who's Green Eyes? Daenerys, then. It's got to be, right?
It's got to be Daenerys, I would assume.
Well, this is what's unfortunate. I'm not going to act like I've read every Game of Thrones book, but I've read at least the first 4, okay? Mm-hmm. Daenerys is described as having hair, not blonde, like white and silverish, and her eye color is almost purple. She's almost like albino-ish in the book. So, like,
okay.
I really want. I hope that prophecy flowed for both, not only the TV show, but I hope that prophecy was in the book, and I'm going to have to go back and now look that up to confirm that. But my thing is, we all believe that the Green Eye prophecy was for her to kill Cersei. So now I'm at this point, and I'm like, I don't remember. Does Daenerys have green eyes in, like, real life? Does Emily Clark have green eyes? Have they given her contacts all along? Has this been some sort of a setup that Arya Stark is going to have to be the one to kill every antagonist now? Or
did she already kill the people with the brown eyes and green eyes? And then that's why she left when Melisandre was talking to her. She said green eyes, brown eyes, and blue eyes, and that's why she left blue as the last one, because the Night King was the last major character she was going to kill. Because think about it, she killed, I don't remember the dude's name in the brothel, when she took the face of a young girl because he liked the young girls. I don't know what I can't remember his name.
Sir Meryn. You're talking about Sir Meryn when she was across the seas? Yep. Yep,
and then we had Walder Frey,
which was a big one. See, when I say brown eyes to me is Walder Frey. But in the easiest, most simplest thing, I don't, like, without me getting too, like, caught up in all this, she killed the whole Frey family. Right. Even if she didn't kill the Night King, best believe she killed brown eyes, blue eyes, and green eyes at that party.
Or what about Baelish?
And she got Baelish too, yes.
So what if he had green? I forget what color his eyes are. But I'm saying that prophecy could essentially refer to, any of those characters.
Exactly, a great many things. So then let's go with this then. What's the end of Arya Stark's storyline then?
Well, that's perfect, because this is where I want to kind of wrap this up. As I've had you for almost 45 minutes now.
Have we really done?
Yeah.
Wow.
About 42 minutes, right?
Nice.
But I want to say, okay, so we got one episode left. Let's go. Where do you see? Give me 3 characters and where you see their arcs going to go.
Sansa, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Jon Snow, dead. Samwell Tarly, the whole reason why you and I get to watch a Game of Thrones is because Samwell Tarly is the one who wrote the real book of Game of Thrones.
Interesting.
So I see him being, not like as if this is being read to us, but let me tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, kind of like the last 2 minutes of the show, it's Samwell writing the book of this, and then, like, literally the last scene is a dragon egg cracking. I can't really comment on Dany because I can't see Dany sitting on the throne but I also have no idea what's going to happen. I think Jon has to kill her, but I think Jon has to die. I'm really, like, the dragon can't live either. Like, so we're really, really fucked right now. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's a explicit podcast, so we're good.
All right.
But I think what do you think about Arya? What's Arya going to do? Is she going to become Gendry's wife and become a lady?
No, I think Arya's going to ride off into the sunset.
I think it's actually been like more like humanized lately. So I think going back home to Winterfell kind of like gave her more of like a warmth and love and affection than she had previously because she was a stone-cold killer.
Now, I'm sorry, I just totally changed my opinion on Arya Stark.
Yeah.
So I've been adamant now, like I said, about Sansa being on the Iron Throne.
Mm-hmm.
Since Arya's been back to Winterfell, Arya's main thing is we are family. We saw Arya is the protector of Sansa. So if I see anything happening, this is going to sound so funny, but I will take it all the way back to when Renly predicted he was king. Brienne wants to be Brienne wants to be a Kingsguard. I could see Sansa being the queen and her Queen's Guards being two more females, Brienne and Arya.
Okay, then who's her hand?
Her hand is Tyrion.
You think it would be Bran, where he using his powers?
No. I think Bran goes beyond the wall with the wildlings, where the last three-eyed raven lives.
Okay.
Like, his place is not among the South, because, remember how you're like, he could be the king? The three-eyed raven's place is not in the South. In the South, they cut down all of the trees that had any connection to the old gods. So that's why Winterfell's, like, tree that, like, we open up seeing Ned at, and where, like, the final battle with the Night, where the Night King died.
Yeah.
Those trees are only left in the north. And, like, if you watch the opening credits, you see that there's like 3 walls around where that area is. That area is very, very protected in Winterfell.
Interesting. What if he becomes part of that tree?
He becomes
the previous three-eyed raven when they were under, with the hold the door scene where he was like part of that tree.
I feel like that. Okay. Oh my God. We can't really get into too much detail about this, but I've read a lot of Wikipedia stuff about the three-eyed raven, about his character. The original one was a bastard. His last name was Flowers, and so on and so forth. When you're the three-eyed raven, you are the three-eyed raven for, like, I don't think they age normally or something, because, like, I want to, oh man, now, like, damn it, we're talking about the three-eyed raven. That's, like, way back in, like, season 5. Oh, man. Please, Jeff. I really think that he goes north. I think he goes beyond.
Okay,
my final
thought is Sansa on the throne.
Sansa on the throne. Tyrion's her hand. She has her 2 Queen's Guards. She knows enough. Like, I really feel like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think that's going to happen because Jon doesn't want to lead. Jon's going to lead the battle against Daenerys and whatever she's got left. I don't know how the dragon's going to die unless Bran can control the dragon and removes the dragon out of play from Daenerys. But Jon will never kill Daenerys. Jon says, "You will always be my queen." And that's what I wanted to talk to you about before. You took a brief second to talk about Jon and Daenerys, and you're talking about how messed up Daenerys is and everything. The line that Daenerys used, and it's true, everybody loves you here, Jon. Like, me, I have no love here. All I have is fear. And then she kisses him, and they're, like, passionately kissing, and you see it. If you pay attention, you see Jon stop for a second.
Yep.
And a woman knows. She backed away from him and said, "Let it be fear then." Even from the man she loves.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be my prediction is I think Jon's going to kill Daenerys, like, especially after, like, what happened last week with the Unsullied and the remaining Dothraki, like, attacking the unarmed men. I think Jon's now realizing, okay, this is not what this needs to be. He says he doesn't want to be king, but I think this is kind of like the leading up to it. I think he might end up sitting on the throne, or he's going to die, like, trying to take out Dany. But I would think that I think in the perfect world, if it were to end happily, I'd say Jon on the throne with Arya as his Kingsguard and Tyrion as the Hand. And then Sansa and Brienne stay up north, and she's the wardeness of the north. But I don't know.
Wow. That's a lot, man. Like, this show is getting crazy.
But I think we're going to see a couple more deaths. I don't know who we're going to see die, though.
Oh man, Jeff,
anyway,
man, it was.
We're gonna have a recap after the next episode too. We'll probably like 1 or 2 weeks after the finale, we'll get together again, whether it be just a phone call or whatnot, and we'll discuss the ending and overall the series as a whole.
Oh man.
Go ahead, man.
Final thought is everything that we've all waited for and took a whole year away from needs this next episode. No, I know, but Jeff, we need this next episode to redeem the show. Just like from my end, like we really.
Real quick, so what would redeem it? How would it be redeemed?
Oh man, I can't even redeem it. Like I can't. Like, the only thing I can do is make my prediction, like, say Sansa's going to be on the throne. How let down are people going to be if Sansa ends up on the throne? People want Dany or people want Jon, or that's really all people want. People either want Dany or Jon, and the show is not going to end like that.
No, it definitely isn't. It's not going to be either of them, I don't think. I don't know. I think it could be Jon. I think that's be the happy ending, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you for joining, Don.
Jeff, thank you so much. Obviously, bud, you know, like how important this was. I love this stuff. And,
right, and I know it's tough to all get together. We're gonna have to. I'm hoping to get like an in studio thing done within the next couple of shows. Hopefully, within the next 4 to 5 shows. But for now, these telephone interviews work, so I think we're good at this point, brother. But
it was awesome.
Hey, the North remembers.
The North remembers.
And let it be feared then.
Vala Mugaris.
Yes. Hey, winter's coming.
Have a good one, brother.
You too. Take care, kid.
Bye.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.